DemeraraWaves.com.
Good day with your major newscast. I am Jessica Daw. First with the highlights. 2 Canadian joint venture companies have discovered oil in the Quarantine Block offshore Guyana. In the region, Trinidad and Tobago's Prime Minister hopes that digitalization will help cut back rampant corruption in the public service. And internationally, you will have your latest update coming from the BBC.
Advertise with us on News Talk Radio Guyana 103.1 FM for best coverage on programs on motivation, beauty and health, parenting and relationships, knowing your rights, and a variety of enlightening content, and get value for your money. Call our helpful staff today on 223-1056 or 223-1041 today.
Now for the news in detail. After more than 20-year search for oil offshore Guyana, the Canadian oil exploration company CGX Energy has finally found crude in commercial quantities. CGX is in a joint venture with a sister Canadian company, Frontera. Drilling was being done by the semi-submersible drilling rig Maersk Discoverer. The joint venture partners had projected last month that the cost of drilling had been projected to raise as much as $125 million. Chairman of Frontera's board of directors and co-chairman of CGX's board of directors, Gabriel de Alba described the initial results from the Kawa-1 well as a positive and a successful outcome. Building on its recent offshore positive results at the Kawa-1 exploration well, the joint venture anticipates spudding its second commitment well, called Way 1, in the northwestern part of the Quarantine Block in the second half of 2022. The Way 1 well is named after one of the tallest peaks in the Pacaraima mountain range, which has commanding visibility over the surrounding terrain. Way Tapu was historically used as a sentinel post by the Patamona people to guard against attacks. House Speaker Manzoor Nadir on Monday scuttled a plan by the opposition, a Partnership for National Unity plus Alliance for Change, APNU plus AFC, to send 22 government parliamentarians to a parliamentary disciplinary committee for the ruckus behavior in the National Assembly's chamber.
First, the motion will not proceed because a prima facie case has not been established. And secondly, there is, I was told, only reminded this morning, because I'm surrounded by so many lawyers, and in the House we have many lawyers on both sides of excellent repute. You can't bring a legal action for your illegal actions in the first place. And based on those two, I am not allowing that motion to go ahead.
Mr. Nadir made known his decision on the motion 1 week after he gave the green light for a government-sponsored motion for 8 opposition parliamentarians to be sent to the Privileges Committee for the December 29, 2021 chaos. Opposition parliamentarian Annette Ferguson has already publicly admitted grabbing the mace because she had become so frustrated that the government had refused to consider requests by civil society and the opposition for a debate on the new Natural Resource Fund legislation to be pushed back. Local Government Minister Anand Prasad on Monday urged Georgetown Mayor Yubraj Narain to pull the trigger on improving the conditions of the city. This, even as the government puts local government councils on notice that they need to give value for money. The local government minister questioned where the city hall's more than a $2 billion Guyana dollars annual revenue was going, especially since the central government was assisting Georgetown with road, bridge, and drainage works.
They are squandering the residents' money. The mayor should not become trigger happy, but should be focused on pulling the trigger in the council. Stop procrastinating, Mr. Mayor, and get the job done.
Over the years, City Hall has been blocked from generating its own revenue by revaluation of the properties, paid parking, fines for littering, and the movement of large vehicles through the streets of Georgetown. A Guyanese man who has had brushes with the law over the years has been named as an investor in a startup Surinamese airline, according to reports from that neighboring South American nation. The company, named Angel Airways, said it recently partnered with Guyanese businessman and chief executive officer of Aaron Royalty, Jason Aaron, giving him a 40% stake in the startup carrier. The head of Angel Airways, Etienne Fernandez, says talks with Aaron Royalty began in mid-2021 after previous negotiations with other parties did not lead to a conclusive deal. Back in 2018, Mr. Aaron had been slapped with 8 fraud-related charges, and in 2021, he had been arrested for allegedly falsifying a series of WhatsApp messages in a conversation that he had purportedly had with an official of the state-owned Guyana Oil Company. He had imported fuel which had been subsequently seized by the Guyana Revenue Authority. A high-ranking officer of the Guyana Police Force on Monday said Mr. Aaron was still the subject of an ongoing investigation. Police say that the captain of the MV Malali ferry was piloting the vessel under the influence of alcohol. The Guyana Police Force says that the Transport and Harbors Department asked for help to conduct a breathalyzer test on the boat captain Jermaine Blackman. At the time of the test, the MV Malali was en route to Leg 1. Police Commander for Region 3 West Demerara Essequibo Islands, Senior Superintendent Errol Watts, said he compiled with the request and 2 tests were conducted. The readings were 146 and 141 respectively, way above the legal limit. A man was arrested early yesterday morning inside a room at Bagotville Post Office, West Bank, Demerara. Police say they were summoned to the scene and observed that a part of the wooden wall was broken. The man was arrested and taken to the Lagrange police station, where he was placed in custody. There were no reports that anything was stolen from the Bagotville Post Office. Investigations are continuing. Now for the news in the region. In Barbados, a proposal has been submitted for the hosting of Midday festivities as entertainment players seek a swift end to stringent COVID-19 restrictions, including a midnight to 5 a.m. curfew. Details from Barbados Today.
President of the Barbados Association of Masqueraders, Anthony Lane, tells Barbados Today 3 options have been presented to the National Cultural Foundation for the festival. Among them, the hosting of an exclusive safe zone jump-up on the ABC Highway and or at an enclosed venue like the Bushy Park Raceway. But stakeholders are warning that time is quickly running out for a final decision to be made on the festival.
The one that look most likely that it could work is if you have it in an enclosed environment where everybody will have to be tested to enter, right? But as it is today, that's how it's looking. But we are just waiting to see or to hear what is the word, because time is short now, but this is now going into February. So basically we're just waiting to see how things will go, or what is the word from the NCF or government through the NCF or whatever it is.
Okay.
We're just waiting to hear what's going to happen.
Right.
Because we need to know like now, right? Because it's kind of late, but we can still make something. If we were given the go ahead now, we can still get something done for August, for the first Monday in August, but we won't want it to run or to have to wait till March or April then to get a go ahead of whether, it will happen or not.
The stakeholders contend that the hosting of recent events in the country, such as election campaign meetings and cricket, could provide some insight on the way forward.
That report from Barbados Today. Trinidad and Tobago's Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley says that corruption is rampant in the public service. We get the details from CNC 3.
As government pushes to digitize the public service, permanent secretaries, heads of departments and administrators were brought together today for a workshop at the Hyatt Regency Hotel. Addressing them, Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley said once the public service becomes fully digitalized, corruption will be much easier to track.
An assault on white-collar criminal conduct, which currently flourishes with impunity, but which will wither if access is digitally controlled and recorded, and information in the form of evidence identifies who did what, where, when, how, and under what authority.
Dr. Rowley says that the pandemic highlighted the country's need to go digital. According to him, the majority of cabinet meetings have been held virtually over the past 2 years. The PM hopes the transformation will make the public service more efficient.
My vision of a transformed Trinidad and Tobago is a country in which our citizens are pleased with the scope, quality, and delivery of public services. A Trinidad and Tobago in which services are delivered to our citizens at their point of need and in a timely manner.
Dr. Rowley says the changes will also benefit public sector employees. He believes government services should not operate in silos.
There's a tendency where we each try to do it alone, resulting in overlapping inefficiency, wasted resources, and inevitably increased demands on the Treasury. Until we see ourselves as one service, we will not be able to fully realize the power of collective action to achieve our destiny as a people.
Charlene Rampasad, CNC3 News.
Banana farmers in St. Lucia are voicing concern about the high cost of operations. They made known their concerns in face-to-face discussions with Agriculture Minister Alfred Prosper. Farmers expressed a variety of concerns, including the high cost of fertilizer and other farm inputs, as well as market access. The minister acknowledged that the current state of the banana industry makes it difficult for farmers to produce high-quality products efficiently. Minister Prosper explained that while it is critical to improve production standards in order to maintain international market penetration, St. Lucians also need to show their support by purchasing and consuming local produce. The Agriculture Minister says he plans to continue meeting with banana farmers throughout St. Lucia to discuss the assistance they require from the government as part of efforts to improve the quality of crops produced on the island. Jamaica's Counter-Terrorism and Organized Crime Investigations Branch has launched a probe following several reports of identity theft. In a statement, police said investigators are aware that unscrupulous people have been using the photographs and names of several people on social media platforms to conduct illegal activities. Among the people impersonated is Superintendent Opita Nicholson, whose name and photographs have been used to create fake pages on several platforms, including dating sites. According to the cops, the criminals have been using the name and photographs of the superintendent and others to create fake pages on several platforms and dating sites. It's reported that the victims, believing that they were communicating with the senior cop, have been lured to various places across the corporate area and the parishes of St. Catherine and St. Mary, where they are tricked, robbed, and in some instances sexually assaulted. A former top official of Suriname's central bank was yesterday sentenced to 3 years imprisonment for financial crimes. Star News reports that ex-director Legal, Compliance and International Affairs, Faranaz Alibax Hossel, also has to pay a fine of almost $4,800. If she does not pay the fine, she will have to serve an additional 10 months imprisonment. Judge Maitri Kuldip Singh says that Alibax Hossel is guilty of violating the Anti-Corruption Act. The court found that there was close and conscious cooperation between her and the other suspects. Alibax Hossel has also indicated at the hearings that she is innocent. Prior to Monday's sentencing, she has been on remand for 13 months. And lastly in the region, world-renowned Barbadian singer Rihanna is having her first baby. The singer debuted her baby bump while out in New York City over the weekend with her rapper boyfriend A$AP Rocky. The couple was photographed out in New York City over the weekend, where Rihanna debuted her baby bump while wearing a long pink jacket. Her oversized outwear was unbuttoned at the bottom to reveal her growing bump adorned in a gold cross, with colorful jewels. In one of the sweet photos, which were snapped in Harlem, where A$AP Rocky grew up, the rapper kisses the soon-to-be mom on her forehead as they enjoy a snow walk outdoors. Back in May, A$AP Rocky told GQ about his romance with Rihanna, calling her the love of his life. And here now is your international news coming from the BBC.
Hello, this is Julie Candler with the BBC News. The UN is appealing for a record $826 million to deal with the humanitarian crisis in Myanmar, 1 year on from a military coup that has resulted in continual violence. It says more than 1,500 civilians have been killed in the last 12 months. Imogen Foulkes reports from Geneva.
UN human rights experts say the military regime is subjecting Myanmar's people to a campaign of terror. At least 400,000 have fled their homes because of the ongoing violence. They're living in appalling conditions, the UN says, without food, shelter, protection or medical care. Thousands have been killed, thousands detained, some have died in custody. The economic damage caused by last year's coup, combined with COVID-19, have, the UN says, plunged half the population into poverty.
President Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine has signed a decree to increase the size of the armed forces by 100,000 troops over 3 years. Mr. Zelensky said he was acting not because there would be a war soon, but to ensure that peace prevailed. It comes amid fears that Russia may try to invade. Moscow denies such plans, but an MP in President Putin's United Russia Party, Yevgeny Popov, says Russia needs to protect itself against what he calls NATO's threats in the region.
We have just simple message to the West. It's pretty simple, but it's strong. We don't want NATO military infrastructure at our borders. Just pull back from our borders and get out from post-Soviet countries.
Diplomatic efforts continue to try to ease tensions over Ukraine. The US Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov are speaking on the phone today. President Putin and the Italian Prime Minister have also spoken, with Mario Draghi stressing the need for de-escalation. Mr. Putin is holding talks in Moscow with Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orban, who's seen as his closest ally among EU leaders. Meanwhile, the British and Polish Prime Ministers are visiting Kiev with talk of a new trilateral pact with Ukraine. Amnesty International says Israel's treatment of Palestinians in all areas under its control amounts to apartheid. Israel's called on Amnesty to withdraw its report. Here's Sebastian Usher.
Amnesty concludes that Israel is enforcing a system of oppression and domination over Palestinians wherever it has control over their rights. The group claims that this has been done for decades through 4 main strategies, including dispossession of land and property and deprivation of economic and social rights. Palestinian officials have welcomed the report, saying that it reflects the real situation on the ground, but Israel has described it as false, biased and anti-Semitic.
World News from the BBC. Some news just in. Reports from Bissau, the capital of the West African nation of Guinea-Bissau, say there's been gunfire in the vicinity of the presidential palace. Unconfirmed reports say soldiers have surrounded the building. President Umaru Sissoko Embalo is understood to be inside. A report into the financial management of Barcelona Football Club has found evidence of major criminal conduct. Barcelona commissioned the report after an audit revealed debts of more than $1.5 billion. From Madrid, Guy Hedgecoe.
Appearing before the media, Jaume Campaner, a lawyer who worked on the probe, said evidence of very serious criminal behaviour had been uncovered. He cited unjustified payments and exorbitant commissions made by the club under previous president Josep Maria Bartomeu. The current president, Joan Laporta, said that the police had been informed of the findings and will decide whether financial crimes were committed.
Chinese and French oil giants have signed a $10 billion deal to build a 1,500-kilometre pipeline from landlocked Uganda to the Indian Ocean. The pipeline will deliver crude from Lake Albert to the Tanzanian port of Tanga. Environmentalists are trying to block the project. Japan's Masato Sagawa, who invented the neodymium iron boron magnet, has won this year's Queen Elizabeth Prize for Engineering. His magnet is the strongest permanent type in wide-scale use. Here's Jonathan Amos.
Magnets are the unsung heroes of the modern world. They're everywhere. They help the disk drive in your computer record data. They're integral to the electric motor in any household appliance. They even underpin the sensor that stops a car skidding when you slam hard on the brakes. Masato Sagawa's great innovation came in the 1980s. He identified a chemical blend based on the rare earth element neodymium and iron that would not only make the world's most powerful permanent magnet, but one that could be mass-produced.
BBC News.
And that was your international news. Here now is a recap of the highlights. 2 Canadian joint venture companies have discovered oil in the Quarantine Block offshore Guyana. And in the region, Trinidad and Tobago's Prime Minister hopes that digitalization will help cut back rampant corruption in the public service. And that was your major newscast. I am Jessica Daw.
This has been the news, compiled in the News Talk Radio newsroom. For ongoing updates, visit demerarawaves.com, and you can check facebook.com/demwaves and twitter.com/demwaves.